Will democracy survive the next couple of years?
Access to Democracy is made possible by donations from the following organizations. Thomson Reuters, a global company with expertise and insight to unravel complex situations in the areas of law, tax, compliance, government, and media. Their worldwide network of journalists and editors keep customers up to speed on relevant global events. Thomson Reuters, The Answer Company. Crutchfield Dermatology, a full-service treatment center and Medi-Spa in Eagan. Their goal is to help you look good and feel great with beautiful skin. With service built around courtesy, dignity, and respect, Mayo-trained Dr. Charles Crutchfield personally treats each patient and is acknowledged as one of the nation's best physicians. Truestone Financial, with locations in Minnesota and Wisconsin, has proudly served its members since 1939. Truestone engages, educates, and supports its members to ensure they have the tools to empower their financial well-being. Truestone Financial, your neighborhood credit union. Learn more at truestone.org. Edina Eye Physicians and Surgeons, a division of Twin Cities Eye Consultants, has proudly served the Twin Cities for more than 55 years now, in 7 convenient locations. Using the most advanced technology combined with human touch, Edina Eye offers comprehensive services and dedicated specialists committed to excellence, with innovative procedures and expertise for the most advanced eye care.
Welcome. Access to Democracy is back, and we have a long-time favorite guest, Commissioner Joe Atkins of Dakota County, Minnesota. He's been with us as a legislator. He's been with us as a city mayor. He's been with us as a garbage collector. He's been with us as a lot of things. And welcome back, Joe Atkins.
Thank you, Al. It's always nice to be back. I didn't know I was a garbage collector too, but it's honorable work. Somebody's got to do it.
That's going to come up shortly. Actually, Joe Atkins, as a younger Joe Atkins, was one of 40 out of 40 of the top promising young politicians in the country. And now he's one of the top promising geriatrics in the country. No, not quite. But I have a question for Joe Atkins, and talking of garbage collecting, the Dakota County commissioners, in their wisdom and in their desire to have a more environmentally conscious community, have made it impossible for those of us who walk dogs to find enough refuse cans, because the city of Eagan took them all away based on some mandate by the county. And it's not unusual to see me in the morning or evening with a lot of other people walking around with plastic bags of dog poop in their hands, really looking for a place to deposit it. And our depositories, many of them have disappeared. What's the story?
Well, first off, thank you for picking up after your dog. There's not not always enough people that do that. So I'm not going to throw our city friends under the bus. They made a decision to, in some smaller parks, to not have trash and recycling receptacles, and they pointed to a update of an ordinance at the county level. We have been working with the state of Minnesota for the last year or so. The state has certain requirements that we have to meet, and one of those is recycling levels. So we provide, using some of the landfill dollars that come into the county, we provide each of the cities with a stipend to help them provide trash and recycling receptacles in the parks, as well as do other recycling efforts. And then the cities choose what they want to do in terms of how they carry that out. Eagan is trying an experiment akin to what some other cities have done. I think Rochester was one, Alan, that did it, where it's kind of like a national park. Whatever you bring in, you take back out. I don't
Well, of
particularly.
course, Rochester has so many doctors in the community that people don't have to pick up after their dogs because they have doctors who go around and do it who are on interns or residents.
Well, that I can't say that I was aware of that, but I'm quite honestly, I'm not a big fan of the way it's being carried out in Eagan, but I respect their authority to do what they do. I think the county provides a stipend from those landfill dollars that come into the county. I want to say it's like $89,000 annually that cities get to decide how they go about carrying it out. And they're trying this effort. I don't think the experiment is going to turn out quite the way they want.
I don't think so. And you say carrying out, it's more like picking up. And there are a lot of us picking up. There used to be so many receptacles for us to drop our deposits in. And, now I bring them home and frankly, Sharon is not interested in them. So waste management is the recipient, and it's just not working out well. The city claims that it's going to be expensive for them to put back the receptacles. And I know we have Pimentel, Commissioner Pimentel, coming up in a couple of weeks for an interview with one of our guest hosts, and she's going to jump all over him because of the same thing. She too has a dog, and she too faces this problem.
Well, and I know the city officials are getting an earful about it. So am I. So is Commissioner Halverson, and I very much support putting the trash receptacles and recycling receptacles back in the parks. But it's a city decision to do so. From the county's perspective, though, we're continuing and willing to help with the funding side of it. But those decisions for local parks or city parks are made at the city level.
So moving on from poop to maybe a scoop, what is the Leonard Sam's Outdoor Heritage Council and some sort of a grant that the Dakota County is seeking?
Lessard Sam's dates back to 2008, voter approved constitutional amendment that takes a little bit of a fraction of the sales tax and dedicates it to natural areas, preservation, restoration, those sorts of efforts. And so we have Dakota County, we applied for an $8.1 million grant from that state account that's set aside for these things, and that will enable us we've been pretty fortunate, pretty good at applying for those grants, but it'll allow us to step up even further the efforts that we've made to preserve natural areas, not only preserve, but also to restore. So Lebanon Hills is a great example when we talk about Eagan. We've got hundreds of acres are in the process of being restored to their natural state, which was pre-buckthorn. And anybody who's got buckthorn or thistle or garlic mustard in their backyards, they know what I'm talking about. It's not a fun thing to have in your backyard. It's not a fun thing to have in our parks. And these dollars, that's exactly what voters approved them for in 2008, was preservation of these natural areas. We've now, I want to say, in Dakota County, since we started back a couple decades ago, preserved about 11,000 acres of areas. These are the top woodlands and wetlands across the county. But there's also all kinds of restoration projects that are being underway in places like Lebanon Hills and other parks and conservation areas around the county.
Well, that's a good thing. And another good thing I want to talk about in terms of the county commissioners is protecting our water supply. We had interlopers coming in from the south, from states that try to destroy voting rights, and from states that allow people to run around with guns, unregistered, etc. And these renegade states tried to steal 500 million gallons of our water for their purposes. And the county commission put a stop to it. And I think there's actually at least a 2-year hiatus on it, and hoping it'll be permanent. Talk about that.
Well, we made it permanent. And by the way, so the background is in the fall of 2019, desert states, Arizona, southwestern states. So Arizona, Colorado, Utah. Um, there was a proposal that was made using an Oregon-based investment group called Water Train, where they were seeking to pump and ship 500 million gallons, so a half a billion gallons of groundwater from Dakota County down to the desert Southwest. And, not that we don't believe in helping our neighbors and that kind of thing, but what people don't realize is that right here in Dakota County, we face in the next 10 or 20 years water issues of our own, water quantity issues. Water quality is pretty solid. Water quantity, though, in places like Rosemont, Eagan, Inver Grove, some of the rural parts of Dakota County, it's anticipated that we may face our own water quantity type issues. So what we did was we started with a year-long moratorium saying, no, we're not going to allow those sorts of wells. And then on April 20th, so just about 2 months ago now, or nearly 2 months ago, we adopted a permanent update to our ordinance that limited both quantity that can be pumped from a well, but also it won't affect agricultural purposes or local businesses one bit, but it will prevent that mass exportation that this out-of-state investment group was seeking to do. They were trying to take our water for free and then sell it down in the desert Southwest to those who apparently don't conserve it very well.
Yeah, well, there was a Colorado compact back in 1820 or 1920, excuse me, 100 years ago, which apportioned water to 7 states running down the Mississippi or the Colorado River. And they have not been very careful about how they apportioned it and how they utilized it. But we don't want them coming here to take our water, because I think the next war probably is going to be fought over water rights. I really believe that. As more areas become arid, as climate changes, notwithstanding what a lot of right-wingers think, the climate is changing. We can see it. We can see many more areas becoming arid and needing more water. And I think that that's where the next battle is going to be fought.
Well, when Minnesota, and it shocks people to hear this, but when Minnesota is facing our own water quantity issues here, and we don't have a well-developed area of the law here about water rights, but they certainly do in the Southwest and other areas like you were describing, Alan, where they're arid in nature. They have long, epic battles over water. And that's, we certainly want to do our best to protect and preserve. By the way, I wasn't being completely unfriendly with them. I told them they could have all of the snow that they want in March from my driveway if they want to come and get it. But it sounded like an April Fool's joke when we first heard it. And by the way, hats off to our friends at the Department of Natural Resources, state of Minnesota. There's also a permit requirement necessary for a well of that size, and they turned it down flat. I think before it even became formed as a formal request, Commissioner Stroman turned it down out of hand. Part of the reason for that turn down, though, and this gets into a little bit of the technical stuff, is that they sought to go into the wrong aquifer. There's the very deepest aquifer, which dates all the way back to the glacial days, is the one, for whatever reason, that was the one that they sought to tap into, and that one is off limits for just about anybody. So I'm curious, and I'm happy that they didn't seek to tap into the Jordan and the Hinckley, because I think the decision would have been the same, but in this case they sought to go into the wrong one. It made the commissioner's decision very simple. And but it made me worry too about what would the next commissioner do if the governor changes, if a different commissioner is appointed. They see it as entrepreneurial. They want to sell the water. Those kinds of things concern me, especially when we have 90% of Dakota County residents who rely on our groundwater for their drinking water.
Well, we will fight to protect our water, and if necessary, we're not above using weapons to fight to protect our water. So, in any event, now I understand that there is a chair of the Emergency Services Bureau who has been named recently by the name of Commissioner Atkins. What is the Emergency Service Bureau, and what is that all about?
The Metropolitan Emergency Services Board, when you think 911, and hopefully you never have to dial 911, yeah, I'm that chair that you were talking about. I was appointed chair or elected chair by the group of 10 metro counties, and our job is to make sure that the 911 works. We have a phenomenal staff. We have phenomenal partners, the state, the county, the city level. And we're going to make sure that when you dial 911, it works, which sounds simple. It is immensely technical and requires a ton of work and a ton of resources and a ton of time. But I can't imagine, perhaps, Alan, other than protecting our water, our drinking water, there are very few things that are more important than when you're in desperate need for help, the 911 ought to work. So we're making sure.
We have a sign on our front lawn saying, "Thank you, Eagan Police Department." And it's for many things, but one of the things it's for is, I believe it was 2018, it was 9 below, and I fell in our driveway and broke my femur, unable to move. The only thing I could do, Sharon wasn't home, our neighbors weren't home, was fortunately reach my cell phone and dial 911. And within minutes, I had 3 members of our police department there who summoned an ambulance. And once my very vicious Springer stopped attacking them with her wagging tail, they loaded me into an ambulance. And, I had a long recovery, but at 9 below, it was 20 minutes out there. I could have frozen to death. And they were not only responsive, they were quick, they were efficient, and, accolades to the emergency people, emergency service people. So
I sometimes get a kick out of political folks who talk about decisions being life or death. And this is it's a life or death kind of decision. And oftentimes it's hyperbolic. I mean, it's just such an exaggeration. But in the case of 911, it is life or death. In the case of our drinking water and protecting our groundwater, literally life and death. So those are the kinds of decisions. And, sometimes we lose sight of, we get talking about other issues and they're important too. But at the state and local level, federal level, that's what a lot of important decisions get made about. So how's your leg now? You're up and you're back to running marathons and things like that?
I can tell you every time it's going to rain, and it's better than a barometer, trust me. And I'm functioning, but functioning painfully. Let's put it that way.
And I know from your puppy poop stories that you're obviously getting the pup out walking, so that's good.
Twice a day, we're out there, all kinds of weather. In 7 years, we have only missed 2 pickups. And that's because I couldn't find them in the snow. And that's really true.
I think there's dispensation for that. If you can't find it in the snow, you're forgiven.
Seeing an 85-year-old, 87-year-old individual down on his hands and knees in the snow, looking for dog poop that went through the snow because it was hot and you can't find it, is something that probably would make somebody a good article, but not me.
Oh, goodness.
You guys have done a lot, though, to protect our water and our woods and our really wooded areas, our environmentally. It certainly takes up a large part of what you do at the commission, I would say.
There is quite a bit of focus on that. We know that our natural areas, our woodlands and wetlands and water, are important to people in Dakota County. I mean, they're important everywhere, but there just seems to be something extra special about here. I think people appreciate it more. It's part of the reason we live here and we stay here and we want to raise our families here. So yeah, it gets special focus. By the way, it's not just the county board that works on that. We've got a great team who work at the county and a whole lot of great residents and local groups that are very keenly interested in these issues, and they help make sure we're guided in the right direction.
Now, in another area, we had a very sad event several years ago on Diffley Road when a young student was hit and killed, actually by a teacher driving to school, from the same school he was heading for on his bicycle. And we've had all sorts of reactions to that. At the moment, Diffley Road is finally closed and changes are being made so that something like that never happens again. Now, I know that that involved the city, it involved the state, and it also involved you as commissioners of the county board. So let's talk about that.
Well, let's first, acknowledge just how I can't imagine a more tragic or sad situation for any family. And my heart still goes out to the VTech family for what happened. We had, as I'm sure you know, there's 3 schools in that area, and there's neighborhoods on the opposite side of Diffley.
And the commercial, shopping there also.
So there's a lot. By the way, it's not the only place in Dakota County that's like that. We've completed a safety assessment that's been underway for a couple of years now of all of the school sites across the county along county roads. There's more than 50 schools that fall into that category countywide. And so even before the accident occurred, there was a proposal that the city was leading on that at the intersection there to try to improve the operation of that intersection and the crossings for pedestrians and bicyclists. And one of the things that came out of the meetings, and I hadn't been on the board that long, but I attended a couple of those meetings, and what we were hearing from the neighbors was that it didn't go far enough, that there was more that needed to be done. And so those plans were underway, and unfortunately, during that period of time I don't know the cause or exactly how the accident happened. I think it's still in the hands of the state patrol who's doing a reconstruction. And so whatever the cause was, I'll leave that for others to figure out. But in terms of the plans for the road, those had begun. And it was interesting to learn that the volumes of traffic on the road no longer necessitated. In fact, the road was built for far more vehicles than were actually using it. And not to point fingers at anybody, but 20 years ago or so, it was of a situation that I think they expected more vehicles to be using that road than actually were now. So the plans actually call for dialing back to lanes in each direction, some use of roundabouts to slow the traffic down, some additional pedestrian and bicycle friendly ways to get around. And to the construction crew's credit, they're going to try to get it all figured out and done when school's out. I know that they've begun it now, just as school's about to wrap up. And they're going to try to have it complete or nearly complete by the time school gets started in the fall. Credit, by the way, to Commissioner Helverson. Lori Helverson is now on our board. She was state representative at the time. She and Senator Carlson, you couldn't find stronger advocates. And they were able to secure some state bonding dollars to help us figure out how to afford the project, which were critical to getting it done.
And it is critical. It's critical to keep our students safe. And now I understand that Dakota County was recently picked as the nation's top local health department. How did that come about? How does that come about? And when they talk about health department, are they talking about the county health department, or what does that encompass?
Yeah, well, you don't just wake up one day and have the best local health department in the nation. That was a designation that was earned over the course of many years. I've only been on the county board for 5 years, but public health has been a key focus of the county for several years. And Dr. Bonnie Brieshoff, who retired just 3 weeks ago, was a linchpin in that success. But she would be the first to say she's got a terrific team, and has now Gina Dasowitz is the new director, who also comes out of that same department. But they were recognized that by their peers as the best local public health department in the country, and it could not have come at a better time. Of course, I mean, nobody knew it when that designation was awarded to us. That a few months later, COVID would strike. But I don't know that there's any local health department anywhere that was better prepared and better run in terms of carrying out and dealing with all of the things that arose during the course of the pandemic.
And statistically, I know that Dakota County ranks way up there in the number of people who have been vaccinated. Not only is the state among the best in the country, but Dakota County is among the best in the state. And, everybody should roll up their sleeves if they haven't by now. The people who are getting COVID now are the stubborn ones who didn't get vaccinated. And it's just coming back to haunt them. It makes no sense to me. So I would urge anybody who is viewing this now, if you haven't been vaccinated, it is a painless procedure. You don't even know that it's taking place. And one and done in some cases, two and done in other cases, but do it. And we're talking to Commissioner Joe Atkins, who is a commissioner in a debt-free county of Dakota. Very few counties can say that also. That means that somebody is watching the pocketbook.
Tiny handful of counties across the country are fortunate to have zero debt. And we're on course, in spite of what's happened the last year. We're still on course to remain debt-free for the foreseeable future. And by the way, I don't know if you're older than 65, Alan, but we just crossed the 93% threshold of vaccination among folks in that category, and we're nearing that magic 70% figure that folks have talked about for herd immunity and the necessary things to get across it. Hopefully, end the pandemic. But
older than 65. I'm older than the dirt in your garden. And so it goes. We've been doing this for 23 years, although I'm going to pass it on at the end of this year to Avi and to Bill Raker and some of the others who have been with us for so long. And I think it was Rick King who said, go out on top. And as long as it's going well, that's what we're going to do. We've been talking with Commissioner Joe Atkins of Dakota County, and always a fountainhead of information, and longtime politician in many areas, which makes him really qualified in so many. And he is going to work with the commissioners and the city of Eagan to make it easier to pick up our dog poop. And for that, Joe, we thank you very much.
You're welcome. No issue too small or too big, Al.
Have a good summer.
Thank you. You too.